Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. Thank you, as always, for being here and showing up. And as we head into these December sessions, obviously, hiring and everything is starting to slow down a little bit. You're going to kind of notice these live streams are getting slower. Everything just gets slow, and that's okay. And obviously, I want to continue to show up for the community as long as these lives are beneficial. We'll see how it goes today, and then we can potentially talk as a group about whether it makes sense to go live next week or just take that week off. I'm definitely going to take the last 2 weeks off. So if there's a significant push to show up live next week, I'll definitely do it. If not, I won't. Hey, Liz. And as everybody comes on, let me know that you can see and hear me okay. Those warm and fuzzies are always great. And we'll kind of dive in pretty slowly, get things kicked off as the audience starts to come in today. So, um, also, just as you're coming in, any questions, comments, any data, any feedback is always great. Just always looking to make sure that we're providing value, and value isn't always me just talking and answering questions. Sometimes that value is that you're bringing in input and maybe feedback and data that simply I just don't have or haven't heard. So that can always be valuable as well. So let's start by taking our common first step, which is going backwards before we go forwards. Obviously, as we get into December, this is a trend. This is I guess technically, this is my seventh December on YouTube, and all I can tell you, and obviously we're also going on LinkedIn Live as well. But December gets super slow. But one of the items I wanted to highlight was yesterday's video. So a common question, it's not the most common question, but a question you can get in job interviews is like, imagine you're the CEO. What would you change? What would you do? What would you do and why? And so that was yesterday's video. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, check that out. Basically, what I did is I answered that question at a high level from the perspective of 5 different roles. And why it's valuable is most hypothetical questions that we'll get in a job interview will kind of come with the framing of and assumption that we're already in that role, but the CE role is actually getting us to step out of our role and solve like we're in the top leadership position. And so it's still important that we solve those types of questions like we're in the role. So if we're a program manager, we're not holistically trying to solve for the organization. We're trying to figure out how we build in better processes and strategies. If we're a software engineer and answering like we're a CEO, we're going to take a real technical perspective, et cetera. So I did it from the perspective of a software engineer, program manager, product manager, accountant, and sales rep, just to get some good diversity in there. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, check it out. The views on these videos in December, I mean, again, views are vanity metrics, the ego. It's not a big deal, but you'll see the views drop significantly on these videos in December. It gets super sleepy. And I get it. People aren't really job searching, and the job search is going to slow down. Just one other quick comment there is the way that this year lines up, December 16th, next week. I mean, it's a good December to get hired within those first 3 weeks of the year. If the weeks fall differently, not as well. But this year, I feel like there's still going to be significant hiring through this week and next week, and I'm kind of seeing that through my client base, seeing that with a lot of negotiation clients coming in as these companies try and wrap up their offers at the end of the year. So without any questions yet, I'm just going to give a quick prompt on my services. We'll talk about how important a good resume is, and then please, we can dive in with any questions or comments. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one career strategy sessions. Our interview mastery course. In late November, I updated that entire course to include a ton of AI modules. It's an extra hour of modules, lots of prompts, lots of good things you can do. So added value there. And then our AI tool, we are really just again continuing to develop and push that tool. And so if you know anybody who needs help and wants something at a lower price point, our AI tool is out there as well. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday. And I'm going to be producing more shorts throughout December as I back off of the longer form content. So let's dive in. As people are coming in, and of course, again, I'm going to answer all questions. It's probably going to be slow today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of a good resume. And we'll chat through that and anything else the audience wants to chat through. Thanks for being here. Again, I know December's sleepy, and I'm going to just be doing a lot of filler to fill the time. And we'll go as long as we need to. If that's 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes. If it's 2 hours, it's 2 hours. Hey, Liz, thanks for being here. Hey, Brenton. I just want to say, Brenton, I have a follow up for you. It may not come through today, but tomorrow I'll follow up with you via email. Hey, let's roger that. Hey, Daphne, always good to have you here. Is the interview process for Google Fiber the same as G? Yeah, very, very similar. Um, Fiber is such a fibrous. I mean, we could talk about it for a long time. It's probably not that important, but fiber is just a super interesting business unit, right? Like it's actually been around for quite a long time. And just kind of the ebbs and flows of them wanting to build it up, bring it down, build it back up. It's been an extremely interesting journey for fiber, but the hiring's very, very similar for the bets, all Google bets. And I think they spun out fiber a little bit, maybe not. Maybe fiber is just started part of the core offering, but for all the bets, like the interviews are pretty similar, right? Behavioral, hypothetical questions. You want to expect basically the same from all the alphabet companies and the bets. They interview very, very similar. The only outlier might be like a recent acquisition that's still following their old interview process, but for the most part, those bets are gonna look pretty similar. Okay, so again, sleepy session today. Let's as you're coming in, like again, all questions, comments, everything's on the table. How important is a good resume? This is kind of a very, very interesting question. It's like if you don't have connections, right? If you're not getting referred in, if yeah, basically if you're not getting referred in, if it's not warm, then a good resume matters. If you're getting referred in, your resume actually doesn't matter that much. And that's something people won't tell you, but a good resume, it's not going to necessarily be a game changer for you. But the reality is that again, you can hire somebody to review it. I think that that's somewhat necessary if you really want to dive deep and you really just don't want to do it on your own and you want hand holding. But the value of a good resume to me, and I've talked about this numerous, it sits in the resume summary. Like we just need to be spending more time creating resumes for each job. And the only thing you need to be switching out is that resume summary. It's a bulleted summary at the top of your resume that is very role aligned. You can throw your resume and the job description into GPT and have it write that summary for you. And then you can kind of tweak it and play around with it. But that's kind of the biggest item. And what that's going to do is it's going to hit on some keywords for the applicant tracking system. And it's just, we got to talk about the reality, right? Like humans are at some point, if your resume is good enough, humans are going to look at it. And if you tell me at the top of your resume, if it's the first thing you say, hey, I'm a fit because of this, and this, and I know as a recruiter or hiring manager, I need all those things for my job, it's just a logical path to create a really strong bulleted summary. So that's my number one recommendation. But I think that people get a little too worried about the resume being great and whether that's going to be the biggest game changer. And it's really your background and skills and experience and ability to get in front of the company that's going to matter more than having like the best resume in the world. I think there's also some normal pitfalls to avoid. And one one really tricky one. I actually figured this out the other day. I was really frustrated because I couldn't figure out the spacing on a resume. Like Some people, like you'll get hiring managers. I've had hiring managers throughout my entire career who would nitpick on the formatting, consistency. If there was one spelling error in there, and I know you kind of hear about this a lot. I'm not telling you anything that's really unique, but the reality is that you want somebody else to review it. You want AI to review it and say, "Hey, look for any inconsistencies in my formatting." That could just be that some bullets end in a period, some don't. I mean, like little basic stuff. But I did a problem solving. I'd probably need to like visually go through this, but you can basically go into like a Google Doc and you can reset all formatting. And if you reset all formatting, what that does and why that's important is it gets rid of all those funky, like unique spaces that show up in a resume, especially if it's a document that you've worked on a ton of times. So if you go in, yeah, it's under format. You know what? I can go. Let's go through this process. So you go format. Let's see here. I did this week. Format. How did we do this? I'm trying to remember everybody. I know that this is a weird thing to do, but okay, yeah. So if you go in, like again, I know this is kind of crazy to do during a live session, but I see this on resumes all the time. So if you go to format, paragraph styles, you go down to the bottom and you go options and you go reset styles, that will actually reset any funky line spacing formatting on a Google Doc. And it like to me, that's a game changer because I see all these resumes that have this weird spacing, and you're just going to get people who are really, really nitpicky about those formatting items. How you format your resume is less important than making sure it's very, very consistent in your formatting. So some people want the company up top, some people want the title up top, some people will put the dates here or here. Like, is that really going to make a huge difference? No, it's not. But if it's all consistent and all the same, that will be the big difference. And that's going to be really important. Again, I'm just blabbering on. Please, if anybody has any questions or comments, we can talk about anything today as we get into December. Again, these sessions are going to get super sleepy. So I'm trying to keep the audience engaged. If we're talking about good resume items, I love a mix of what you've done in the past or present and accomplishments. So I think there's a little bit of a misconception that it needs to be all accomplishment based. I think that that's poor coaching because the day to day stuff is going to bring in the keywords that are going to show up in the applicant tracking system and match you. So if I'm thinking about my ideal resume from an experience standpoint, it's probably like 2 to 3 bullets on the day to day and 2 to 3 bullets that are accomplishment based and following that format within each job. So I see that massive consistency and it's just an easier journey for me to go through and understand what's going on. So it's like this is my day to day, this is my day to day, this is my day to day and then I accomplished X, Y, and Z. If you put accomplishments on a resume, the key thing is that percentages don't mean anything, right? Like a 30% increase. It's like, well, what is a 30% increase? A 30% increase that made the company 10 million more, or a 30% reduction in time that saved us 40 people hours a week, or whatever it is. Even if it's not like the most accurate way to back up a percent, like percents on their own don't mean a lot. And if you say like save the company $10 million, well, like yeah, $10 million is going to be great for any size company. But if you're $1 trillion company, was that just like an easy tweak, or like 10 million at $100 million company? I mean, it's like that's 10% of the yearly revenue for that company. So again, when we talk about percentages, just back it up with percentages and numbers. Um, and I realized that I wasn't scrolling, so I do see some questions that came in here. That happens to me occasionally. Let's pause on the resume stuff, and let's dive into questions, and then we can come back to it. I'm not slowing down. Okay, awesome. Chatting to several people about new contract opportunities. I have a question about networking appropriately. I want to be careful about burning goodwill. Spotted a cool role. Okay. For a job that's in my domain, but several levels above my last one. Should I ask them to intro me to the HM? They suggested it, and I would like to explore ops on this team and learn about the need. But I don't have all the core requirements on paper. Yeah, that's okay, Liz. I mean, like, obviously, anytime we have the intro, we push. We need to push outside of the let's always push outside of the bands or bands, is that the right word? Yeah, I think we always want to push outside of the bands of like what's possible. Meaning that we always have to just kind of push forward, take a little bit of risk, take a little bit of a leap. Um, because the alternative is nothing, right? So when the alternative is nothing, I'll always take the something and we'll just see how it works out. And if it doesn't work out, okay, it doesn't work out, right? But I would get after it because in a worst case scenario, they're gonna be like, wow, like you actually don't have all the core qualifications for this role, but maybe they can pass your information off to somebody else. So no, I think go after it. And anytime we have a referral, obviously, and Liz, it sounds like you have a pretty good network or a lot of people who want to help you. I can see why. You're very gracious, you're very kind. Um, and so I would go for it. And if they say, "Well, you don't have this," or "How would you handle this?" You could say, "You are 100% correct. I don't have that. I'm happy to tell you about a time I did learn a technology really quickly if you'd like to hear that story." That's always a great way to back it up too, is to lead with a past example of a time you learned quickly, adapted quickly, adjusted quickly, etc. Hey, Jeff, finally made it to one of these. You're doing God's work here. Truly appreciate the tips and insights. Thanks for being here. You're definitely getting into these live sessions in the very, very sleepy time of the year. But again, I love this community, and sometimes it's like we don't need a ton of people to push and drive and make sure we're getting questions answered. And this is obviously my preferred platform for answering questions. I obviously get a ton through LinkedIn. People email me directly, and sometimes I just in my mind I have to say no because it's like I want to set my time here to answer questions. And of course, the Slack community, it's really slowed down. I mean, during COVID, I mean, it was crazy. The amount of questions we'd get on a daily basis. But obviously, things have gotten a little slower for tech hiring. But the Slack community, if people go to practiceinterviews.com, free resources at the bottom, or I think it's Slack community at the bottom. You'll find it and you can sign up. Currently actively looking and got several hiring manager calls scheduled. How do I use the AI tool to build the muscle memory for behavioral questions? Thanks. So the muscle memory is so much about repetition, right? And that's where the AI tool will help. I mean, of course, I'm going to push that tool, but not to the extent that like I'm alienating people or trying to push them to buy a service, right? The tool will just help you build that repetition. You don't need the tool for that repetition, but it will give you a diversity of questions that will challenge your brain maybe in a little bit of a different way. The biggest thing with behavioral questions is start by getting those best answers on paper. And by the way, I did a video on this. I think this was last week's video. We can speed up our prep with AI. And I'm not just talking about like my AI tool, I'm talking about just in general. If you were to throw your resume and the job description into GPT, for example, right now and say, hey, pull out the best examples from my career, it would do it. Pull out the best examples from my career and create star answers for me. It would do it. If you want to go watch my videos and tell it how to format them, it will do it. And so, like, we can absolutely speed up our prep time by utilizing AI, whether that's a practice interview tool, just using Gemini, GPT, Claude, whatever our preferred large language model is, to start pulling out some of that information. Here's what's really surprising. AI is very good at filling in the gaps of what our memory forgets. this sounds crazy, but what you would do with a large language model is you just say, hey, I'm trying to work through this example, create the actions that I likely took. It might come up with one or two actions that you took that you just had forgotten about, or you weren't thinking that you would reference, but now you will reference because the tool recommends it. It's really powerful on the behavioral side. I think it's a huge missed opportunity that people aren't utilizing enough. Okay, Ash, for the GCA and GNL in general, what interviews matter more? I would assume the GNL, but wanted to ask. They matter the same. It's really the only interview. So throughout this process, right? Like the only interview that could sway things one way or the other is the hiring manager interview. And of course, in a lot of cases, the hiring manager is going to take one of the core three RRK, GCA, and GNL interview. So they can sway if it's their decision. But in reality, all the interviews basically count the same. They don't weight like the GNL 50% and the GCA is 20%. There's no formula like that. Jeff, I feel confident about the interviews, but unsure why the recruiter hasn't provided any updates. Because they're a recruiter. Yeah, I mean, the reality is, and everybody who knows me in these sessions knows I stay pretty positive and kind until it comes to talking about recruiters. But you don't have updates from your recruiter because they're unorganized and they don't know how to do their job. I mean, this is why the recruiting position will be automated out, in my opinion. You should get timely updates, especially if you're checking in. So if you haven't checked in recently, I would check in again. It's always kind of the 5 business day rule. If you haven't heard back after 5 business days, check in and then check in once a week. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how long you've waited, what the communication has looked like. So no professional summary at the top. Go straight into the bullets that you recommend, and then professional experience. Yeah, professional summaries. Here's the thing. They'll be skipped over. So like objective statements, a quick personal summary, like 2 or 3 sentences, they're sentences. So what happens when you think about like a hiring manager or recruiter, whoever's going to review your resume, you have 3 seconds basically. 3 to 5 seconds to get them to keep reading. So bullets jump off the page. So much of this is awareness around how people read. I know it's silly, but sometimes we just forget and we want to really just put ourselves in our audience's shoes. And if we do that, it's like, oh, okay, bulleted summary, specific core skills that are role aligned, and those bullets don't go past one line, jumps off the page, jumps off the page, jumps off the page. Okay, I'm going to keep reading on the resume. And that's just kind of the mindset that I want people to use. It's the biggest missed opportunity on resumes that I see consistently, and there's a misunderstanding. Information needs to be visible and jump off the page. If it's not, it's not going to work really well. Great question, Brenton. Okay, my December is still going strong. Interview with Apple hiring manager last night, and got 2 recruiter calls this week. Got my first interaction based on a cold resume. Amazing. Not common. Do you see any common problems when using AI to generate your resume? Any specifics that jump out to you as AI generated content from a recruiter perspective? No, I don't think I was like, well, so first of all, it's a hard question for me to answer in the sense that obviously I just haven't been a recruiter since AI became a thing. Um, there's some things that GPT does that are like it's kind of like I know it's AI. If it's a little fluffy, it's AI. Long dashes, AI. Missing commas after some missing commas, like in a place where a comma would be normal, like but again, you wouldn't put but in a resume. So but just some missing little pieces there. So just make sure that the language sounds like you. But I don't really have a challenge with AI generating it as long as it looks extremely clean. That's the only thing I care about. And that it has the data that's relevant to the role you're applying for, right? And even when we use like GPT to create that bulleted summary, well, we may not like everything that GPT says. So I'll say, here's my resume, here's the job description, find and create 5 bullets that align with the core skills of the role and my background. No fluff, and make the bullet short and snappy. Right. And then it will give me those 5 bullets, and I'll be like, oh, 3 of those are good. Okay, let's try again. Let's try again. So much of working with AI, in my opinion, is iterating and pushing back and giving more data and giving more context and making it really conversational. And the other thing that we want to always think about, like if you're ever going to do your resume in AI, the first sentence is, you are a resume creation expert. So I don't know if anybody's seen this, but like, let's create the box. So there's a box when you work with AI. If you call out expertise, it focuses in and it within a dot within a box. So if you call out expertise, it's instead of taking the whole information from the box, it's taking this dot within the box and taking the information from within that dot. I don't know if that sounds like I'm talking like a crazy person, but it's narrowing the focus of the expertise to give you better data. So anytime we do anything that's pretty niche down, just tell the large language model you're an expert at X. And so I do that all the time. And I think everybody kind of knows here. I use GPT every single day, every day. And I find it to save me massive amounts of time. Okay, cool. Here's some news. So, interviewed for a new account strategist role at GCS with the second round on 11/19, but I haven't heard from the recruiter since. I followed up with the 30, 60, 90 onboarding plan to strengthen my app. Okay. But still no response. I feel confident about the interviews, but unsure why I haven't received updates. Yeah, because your recruiter's terrible. Okay. So, got to email this email. If your last interview was 11/19, and they're just not responding to your emails and not following up, just email google-candidate-support@google.com and say, hey, I haven't heard back from my recruiter. It's been multiple weeks since my last interview, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Again, like without getting way into the weeds of this, it's very, very easy to follow up with you. It's very, very easy to just respond to an email and say, hey, still waiting on feedback. Hey, still trying to do this. But it's just a sign that your recruiter is totally unorganized. Their email box is unorganized. They don't have an organized calendar, and their applicant tracking system, specifically GHire, is a mess. They haven't pushed out applications. They haven't closed things out. Like it's so hard to make a candidate wait that long without following up. I mean, you just have to be so unorganized. And I know I'm being critical, but I was in that role at one point. I had like 35 or 40 unique recs, and I was still able to do it. So it doesn't take a lot. It just requires a system at the end of the day to say, hey, I'm going to follow up with everybody in process, and then build in other time buckets during the week where you follow up with everybody. Thanks, Jeff. And you're right. I'm very grateful for the network, including this part. Just FYI, being able to chat with you about this stuff is awesome. I hope you'll be back in 2025. I will be back in 2025. And I think, I've been very candid that I don't know how much longer this YouTube journey is going to go. It's been over 6 years. But for right now, definitely as I look out to 2025, I don't see any reason why I won't be producing content throughout 2025. And each year and each month and each day, I'll do an evaluation. But the purpose of content, it has two major purposes, right? It's to provide tremendous value to 99.99% of people who are going to consume my content, engage with me, and interact with me for free. And that 0.1% needs to make me money so that I can eat food and have a roof over my head and as the AI tool becomes a bigger priority, that's where I see potentially a little bit of a drop off on doing these YouTube videos. But the YouTube videos provide visibility, so people have awareness about me, and I'm extremely lucky in that sense, because when you build a product and you have a little bit of awareness and a little bit of a brand, it makes it a lot easier than if you don't have that. And it's still very, very challenging with a big brand. So we're at the 30s. We still got a good amount of questions. So I'll go ahead and just at the 30s, I'll take 30 seconds to prompt on my services. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. Our interview mastery course, I updated it to have AI modules throughout. It's a ton of work. It is a huge enhancement to an already fantastic course, in my opinion. Of course, we have our AI tool as well, and you can find all this at practiceinterviews.com. We have free resources. You can join our Slack community, tons of free stuff, and blogs. I have over 100 blog posts, right? So I'm still writing. It's obviously good for SEO, but if you ever like to read, get anything in written format, that's there as well. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday and new original content every Monday. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. All right, let's dive back in. Are 2-line resume bullets too long? Some people mention that sufficient white space on a resume is important. 2-line resume bullets. The vast majority, the vast majority, the majority of bullets under the experience section are definitely going to probably be 2 lines, right? It's the summary bullets that need to be 1 line or less. And I am absolutely, of all the flexibility I have around resumes and how you build and craft them, I am adamant about the fact that summary bullets need to be 1 line or less, just so they jump off the page. But 2 lines, sometimes something's really robust or it's a 2-part, it can go on to 3 lines. That's a non-issue. Some people meant like the sufficient white space on a resume. I've actually never heard that. I mean, I think that would maybe be relevant for somebody who's like pushed the margins out. They have tiny font, they've squeezed everything. But I mean, like in general, having white space on the resume, I would say is irrelevant. Yeah. Okay, John. For team specific non-tech roles at Google, how many candidates typically move to HC? My recruiter told me a few days ago after the final interviews I was moving to HC, wondering if other candidates are. So for team specific non-tech roles at Google, so like team specific means there's been a hiring manager identified up front. That's how I'm taking this question. If I'm incorrect, please let me know. But if I have a hiring manager identified for any role and I'm interviewing candidates and taking them through the process, only one person's going to HC. I don't take multiple people to HC. I've identified my preferred person, the person I want to hire. The hiring manager is going to write a statement of support before hiring committee. They want to hire you. That's the goal. So they're not taking multiple people to hiring committee. So that's really good news. Told that you were moving to HC. I hope they told you the day and time and exactly when you'd hear back, because I'm hearing that doesn't happen anymore. And that to me is very strange. AI is also very good at crystallizing my thoughts, helping with word choice and concision when I'm tired or just juggling multiple things at once. Yeah, I mean, of course, like I am like, I want to always be thinking about, okay, like AI uses a lot of energy and uses a lot of water, right? Like, so if it's a very, very simple search, I'll obviously just do a Google search. But if it's complex reasoning, I'm going to use AI and I'm going to work through it and I'm going to create follow-up questions and have a conversation and really build things. And it's funny because like when I went and rebuilt all those AI modules for my course, all I was thinking was, wow, I had to come up with all of this on my own from scratch, all the questions, all the ideation, all the sentences. And now I would just have AI do all that. Now, of course, I'd tweak it, of course, based on, so of course I'd tweak it based on um, how GPT or the large language model responds. Um, but but it would have been really helpful to have that the first time around. Hey man, can you please do my resume review? Sure. So I do provide that service. So if you go to practiceinterviews.com and you want to purchase that service, just general resume reviews. Again, I just want people to understand what it looks like on my end, and I want to always come at this with the most gracious and kind tone. But it's just to understand what it looks like on my end, because I think that sometimes people aren't aware, and so I'd like to provide that awareness that on any given day, between LinkedIn, people emailing me, YouTube comments, like, I get asked to do quite a lot, and I basically have to say no and draw a line to some things, because I wanna help everybody, but if I help everybody, um, I won't get anything done. So, I do offer those services. Obviously, if those services don't fall within your price point, I just have tons of data. Like, go to my YouTube channel, check out my resume videos. Definitely download the free template from practiceinterviews.com. That template should be a good shell, and I hope those items help. AI doesn't get tired. It helps us sometimes when we're tired, Liz. Yeah, which is a really, really nice thing. And obviously, everybody who's watched this knows I'm a fan of AI. Like, I do think the future state of things is going to be very, very interesting. But I'm a fan. Hey Jeff, what's the expected comp for Google's go-to-market strategy and ops level 6 in New York? Okay. If possible, a split between base, stock, and bonus would be great. So, go to market. So it's strategy and ops. Okay. So, strategy and ops. I'm gonna say most like L6 non-tech, even in a like premium plus market like New York or the Bay. I mean, this role is probably going to get you into the fours. Now, like, what that would look like is it's probably about, it's high ones to 200K in base. The bonus target will be 20%. So let's call it 200, 240. And then, you're really looking to drive up that equity as much as you can, maybe 500K, 600K in equity. You should be into the fours for this role. And so if you're into the fours, I would anchor in the high fives. That's my recommendation. I hope that helps. And probably a sign on. Probably get at a level 6. You're pretty likely to get a 20, 30, 40K sign on. Is it possible to still negotiate a Google offer even after the recruiter specified what the salary range was during the phone screening? 100%. Account strategist roles are absolutely negotiable. The salary range is just one component. So that's a range. You can negotiate beyond that range. They're not going to pay you beyond that range, but you can ask for more. The biggest thing that you can negotiate is going to be equity for an account strategist role. So you definitely want to be negotiating equity. You can try and get a sign on. For an AS role, that's going to be really small, maybe like 10K, 15K. But that's something else you can negotiate for as well. Hey, man, what's the schedule for these live sessions? Thanks for conducting them. Absolutely. These live sessions are 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, and I'll make a decision by the end of this live session. But I'm thinking probably taking the next 3 weeks off. I was definitely going to take the last two, but based on attendance over the last couple weeks, I'll probably take off next week as well. I don't know that I'm going to make a concrete decision today, but uh, yeah, probably taking the next 3 weeks off. Hey, Jeff, tomorrow I have my interview. Please give me a quick tip for hypothetical questions. Thanks in advance. Quick review on the CFAS method with a quick example. Okay. I mean, I don't know the role, so that would be helpful. So I'll do it. I definitely want. So I hope that everybody knows where to go because I don't think YouTube does a good job. But like if you go to my YouTube channel and you just go down and you'll see like a list to look at like latest popular videos, etc. On the far right is a search button, which is searchable for my channel. So if you search perfect, just put in the word perfect or CFAS, and that CFAS video will come up. I mean, that is your gold. That video will tell you everything you need to know. Um, Clarifying questions, you need to ask a number of them. Just know that if so much of clarifying questions is about audience engagement. If they shut you down, you change it from is it X to I'd be thinking through X. So it's a little bit of pitch and tone depending on how your audience reacts. But create that cheat sheet, have your go to clarifying questions, either or yes or no questions. Then we think about it like a presentation for a work project. We create an outline. Think of the outline slide. That's your next step. That's your framework. You are just highlighting the high level concepts that you want to introduce so your interviewer knows that you have a system, a process, you can stay organized. Then assumptions. Assumptions are context, and no assumptions, no visuals, no connectivity, you don't get hired. You have to make role specific assumptions. It's a tiny bit of a risk, much bigger risk to make no assumptions and be talking about generic things. What's an example of that? Hey, last night I had some food and I watched the game. It's already gone. You've already forgotten what I've said. If I said, hey, last night I watched the Monday night football game in Dallas versus the Cowboys and the Bengals, and I ate spaghetti I ate spaghetti with homemade sauce and ground turkey, which is exactly what happened. It's like, okay, now you can kind of picture me watching the game. You can picture the food. And then those assumptions become much clearer when you solve for specific visuals. And then in your solutions, don't solve for everything. Solve for a piece and then check in. Solve for a piece, then check in. If you throw everything at them, they're going to fall asleep. I hope that helps. Do you think if I email the general email, I will be looked down upon? I don't want to get the recruiter in trouble to the point where they don't advocate for me. Sorry for so many questions. Never apologize for questions because the questions keep the audience engaged. And the questions you're asking, there's somebody in here or somebody who's going to rewatch it who has the same exact question. So all questions are good. It just keeps the fuel going. It keeps these lives going. Your recruiter deserves to get in trouble. And they're not going to get in trouble. This is an offshore team that just pokes the recruiter and says, "Hey, can you check on X candidate's profile?" And they should check. Your recruiter should get in trouble. November 19th was a long time ago. We're talking 3 weeks with no reply. That means the recruiter has absolutely no awareness, no empathy, and no organization. No empathy and awareness because nobody would make a candidate wait 3 weeks, especially with a company like Google that's a dream job for many people. And then they're not organized. That's their job. So at 3 weeks, if you haven't heard back, I strongly recommend using that email. And if they get in trouble, like they're currently not doing anything to advocate for you because they're literally not following up with you at all. You have no clue what's going on. We need to get recruiters in trouble. They should get fired. They should lose their jobs. This kind of stuff is totally unacceptable. And by the way, your Google recruiter's making quite a bit of money, quite a bit. And even if they're like working through a contract role, they're making way too much money to be this unorganized. Google's training for their recruiters, I don't know what's going on, but it's awful. These recruiters are not being trained appropriately. And like I spent a lot of time early on in this messaging Google and saying like, what's going on? And then just when leadership didn't care and didn't respond, I stopped giving them feedback. But I mean, I get these comments every single day. I haven't heard back from my recruiter and they're not trained appropriately. They don't know how to do their job. There's no checks and balances. And recruiters, when they don't follow up with candidates, should lose their job. Because when I worked there, if you got bad survey results, you would. And the people who got bad survey results deserve to lose their job because they weren't they weren't doing their job. I know that that's pretty harsh, but um, again, they make a significant income. Like in comparison to recruiters and other companies, they just make so much money that responsiveness is a big part of the job. Hey Jeff, my recruiter said he was waiting on a response for my last interview last Wednesday. He suggested a chat on Friday, then he ghosted me. Okay. I reached out to him again this week, nothing yet. When should I could contact that support email? I mean, you can contact it now. I would maybe hold off because it's a little bit more recent. Again, I'll just throw that out there for you. It's a little bit more recent, so like you've had contact within a week. So maybe if you haven't heard back by next week, you could. I mean, I don't want you to wait till the end of next week when people start like after the end of next week, like the following week, so many people are going to be out of the office. So maybe wait one more week. I know that that's going to be absolutely painful, but maybe just not yet. But it really it's up to you. Yeah, and sorry to hear that. Thanks for sharing the insight on AI's impact on job hunting. Super helpful. Quick question. I remember there used to be a 20% code off, but I can't find that anymore. Is this a one-off thing or recurring? Yeah, so Patrick, it's all over the place, right? So I haven't been doing discounts since Black Friday because I did such significant discounts in that window. But in live sessions, I'll throw a 20% discount out, a 30% discount out. Obviously, the AI tool, I want to provide discounts and just know that it's coming in at a little bit of a lower price point. That if you have something pressing right now, I would just get after it. Um, I am moving forward. I've kind of decided in my mind that I'm going to do like more quick flash sales and like get my just to get my products in more people's hands. So I may do like a Christmas one that I'm strongly considering doing like a quick Christmas one or New Year's one. But if you're not signed up for my newsletter, just go to practiceinterviews.com and literally just log in. And once you create that email, you'll be included in all monthly newsletters and any flash sales. Thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate your sessions. Thank you for being here. A well-deserved 3-week break for you, Jeff. Yeah, I'm like, there's still a part of me that wants to come back next week. Definitely the last 2 weeks because it's like Tuesday, the 24th and the 31st. Like nobody will be here. Next week, I'm still considering, I think. Last question. Do you have a Patreon? Would definitely want to give back to someone who's really helped so many people in a tough job market, currently unemployed. So this would be a way to support you. I sincerely appreciate that. And the like Patreon and buy me a coffee and all that stuff is and like a membership program. I'm like 100% against it. There is one way that anybody and everybody can help me. Just socialize my content. If you like what I'm doing, tell everybody you know about it. Tell them it's helpful. When you land the job at Google, if you do a LinkedIn post, those LinkedIn posts saying Jeff helped me get the job are absolute gold for me. They get me just great visibility to people who don't really know about me. So the best thing anybody can do is socialize. And I feel like that's for any like content creator. If you find something really cool, just socialize it. That's what I do. I find somebody's channel and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'll even do that on LinkedIn. I'll find a really small channel that I really like and I'll socialize it. And I have enough of a following on LinkedIn where like people will get to know about that creator. So that's the best way you can help me. And thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. But yeah, socializing is like, I don't want people, well, I do want people's money through my products and services. But if those are not items you're going to purchase, then just socializing is great. Thank you so much. Hey, Jeff, I have multiple final interviews this week. What helps in separating myself from other candidates? Oh, Steve-O, big question. Okay, so or maybe I pronounce it in Stevo, maybe Stevo. So one is let's go through just like a few basic items. Like one is just energy and enthusiasm. Like just come in with good energy. Some people come in and they're really flat and come in, big smile, good energy. Obviously, your prep is essential. So if you are not practicing with an AI tool, with other people, and just practicing and practicing and preparing, that's important. Obviously, your setup, like you can see the lighting is, look, I mean, I know the ceiling in my new office is old and crappy, but the reality is that what you want to be focused the most on is like the leveling, the lighting. So like the lighting's good, the level is good, my shoulders are back. So be bringing in thinking about your body language. Body language is critical, your pitch and tone. The big sneaky trick that people who have been here before have heard me say a million times. At the end, we have to use science and psychology to win over our interviewers. Asking questions about ourselves do not interest the interviewer. What interests the interviewer is talking about themselves. What do you love about the company? What do you love about the role? What do you love about the team? What's the coolest thing you're working on to the extent that you can share right now? So you get them to talk about love, love, love. What's cool? What's awesome? It's the end of the interview. So what does that mean? And be like, oh, wow, I really love that candidate. It's a trick. It's a trick and it's not a trick. It's a psychological trick to understand that people always like you better when you talk about what they care about, what interests them, and when they talk about themselves. This is 100% rule. They like you better when they talk about themselves and what interests them. It's it's a core foundational item that you'll find in How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, like the staple book for learning how to influence people. So that's just a key facet that a lot of people miss. Obviously, there's a million things you can do, but at a high level, I hope those ones help. When do you think the cutoff dates for interviews is in December? I have an informal interview on Friday, hoping to hold the final interviews in the first week of Jan. Yeah, I feel like next week, I feel like people are still around. Like when we really look at the dates, it's like, okay, maybe people are taking off the end of next week, but next week again, just the way the December sets up this year, I feel like is an advantage for people who are in the interview process. How that rolls out and what that looks like, I can't say for sure. But I think there's still potential that interviews could happen this year. And then as we roll into January, probably not the first week of January, but maybe the second week of January would be my best guess. Yeah, it's really like basic information. Here's my name, here's my email. It's been a few weeks since I heard from my recruiter, and I'm just checking in. I want to make sure they're okay, that they haven't changed roles, left the company, because sometimes that happens. Like I'll tell you, I mean, like even when I left Google, I tried to get a meeting with my manager. I had a transition plan for all my active candidates, and it was just totally ignored, and I have no idea what happened to those candidates. I had a plan, I had a spreadsheet, I had the status, I had everything set up so that they could be taken over, but nobody actually met with me to transition those candidates or speak with those candidates, even though I tried. And so, like, again, that could be a scenario that came up as well. So, just something to be aware of. Um, but we're not trying to like poke at the recruiter. We're just trying to say, here's my name, here's my email, here's the last time my last interview, and I haven't heard back. And that's kind of it. I actually don't, I don't know where this email came from. Somebody shared this with me like a few years ago, and it's just been very, very effective. So I'm totally grateful to whoever that random person was because I have shared this email thousands of times, and it works. It really works to get the recruiter to respond to you. So just really basic information should be helpful. Yeah, role, company, your email address, and just the last time maybe you heard back. Didn't realize this might be your last session of the year. Glad to make it. Thanks for all your insight and knowledge. We'll try out the AI tool this week to prep for HM calls. Amazing. Yeah, I think I'm not going to commit. I'm not going to commit to not commit to next week at this point. What I'll do is I'll update the community tab in YouTube to kind of let people know. I am leaning towards taking the last 3 weeks off. Initially, I was just going to take the last two, but it's getting to the point where it's getting pretty slow, and that's okay. Again, if there are questions that you want answers to, the Slack community is going to be the best way to get those answers while I'm not going live. So it's something that I strongly recommend. Again, engagement is low there. We go some weeks where there's multiple questions, some weeks there's like one or two questions. It's really pretty sleepy at this point, but it's still a great way to get me because I engage with my dev team on Slack and all my other things on Slack on a daily basis. So I'm definitely in there daily. Okay, let's roll into a wrap up. And then if any additional questions come in, oh, here's Edward. Take next week off, recharge and reset. Thank you. Great content. Thanks for the great responses. Thanks, Stephanie, for always showing up. I'm leaning towards taking off next week, but I think everybody knows I like to get after it quite a bit. Let's go into our wrap up. If any additional comments, questions, anything else is still top of mind for you, please throw it in the comments now. If not, hit me up on the Slack community. If you enjoyed what we did today, hit that like button and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday, and then I'll sprinkle in some shorts here and there. If you go to practiceinterviews.com, we scroll to the bottom to get our 6 killer free resources to join our Slack community. Obviously, you can sign up for one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one strategy sessions. That's resume and LinkedIn reviews and a little bit of networking work. And it can just be overall strategy. Like I have a strategy session in a couple weeks with somebody I worked with in the past, but it's just helping them get prepared for onboarding at a company. So it could be anything. Our interview mastery course has been updated with AI. It was already a great course. Now it can be, you can get through it faster with AI. So I'm so happy about that update. If you haven't had a chance to check out that course, definitely check it out. Our AI tool, our low price point product, we are continuing to build and dev, and I have not slowed down. I've spent a ton of money. This product, in my opinion, from a feedback perspective, is already best in market, and we are going to continue to make it better and better. I want to win really badly, and this product will win, and I will continue to develop it and take your feedback to improve it. Thank you so much for being here. Access to the Slack group. So if you just go to practiceinterviews.com and you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, it's going to say join our free Slack group. I just wanted to double check that it was still there. So that's how you can join the Slack community. Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, I will definitely, if I don't touch base with you, I'll get to you this week, I promise. Thanks again for all this, Jeff. Have a great upcoming holiday week, everybody. Yeah, everybody. I hope the best for everybody, and definitely send that email up. Amazing content, Jeff. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Liz. Thanks for being a fantastic supporter of this channel and always contributing. I really appreciate it. Okay, everybody, we hit an hour, which again, the last couple of weeks, we've hit about an hour, which is great. I know that these are sleepier sessions, but I appreciate everybody showing up. This is an amazing community and tribe, and we always speak about tribes in terms of what do we want to foster and build in our life, right? And like this tribe, this community is extremely positive, grateful, and those are the core items that will help you achieve anything you want to achieve in life. I know that this is a career platform, but the reality is without those foundational items, it's just hard to have great success in life. So I appreciate everybody showing up and just this awesome positive energy that everybody brings every single week. Yeah, absolutely. Good luck on your interviews. Thank you, everybody, so much. I will let you know in the YouTube community comments whether I'll be back next week or not. Thanks so much. Take care.